What I realized too was that if I set out to just help organizations, I was only doing half the work because, look, we've all been doing this long enough. If you have one or two good leaders in your life, you're a lucky individual. Chances are you'll go through your entire career and never work for an individual who's committed to helping you move forward. So I wanted to give individuals the tools they needed to really springboard or take charge of what they're going through.
Welcome to Climbing the Corporate Ladder Without Breaking a Heel. I'm your host, Dr. Cynthia. With over 30 years in the corporate world as a single mom, cancer survivor, and often the only woman in the C-suite, I understand the balancing act high-achieving women face. Now an executive coach and international speaker, my mission is to embolden every woman in the C-suite or on the rise to claim her agency and challenge the norms holding her back. Tailored for ambitious professional women, this show features candid conversations with powerful business leaders sharing their real stories of success and failure. If you're ready to look up and step up, you're in the right place. Join us and invest in your future today. Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Climbing the Corporate Ladder Without Breaking a Heel. I am your host and your coach, Dr. Cynthia. Very excited about today's conversation, and every one of our listeners need to be listening in right now. The time could not be better. I'm joined by Meridith Elliott Powell. She is a Hall of Fame speaker, a sales futurist, an award-winning author, and CEO of Motion First. Meridith has built her career at the intersection of disruption, leadership, and growth, helping organizations and individuals transform uncertainty into competitive advantage, something I talk about a lot. Her work is grounded in research and real-world execution, and she brings all of this to life through her proprietary Thrive system, which we're going to talk more about, where she equips leaders, sales teams, and entrepreneurs to navigate volatility, something we're all experiencing, reframe change, and outperform in markets defined by constant motion. Meridith, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Love the introduction.
Yeah, so happy to have you. You know, I always like to start with sort of the origin story. Talk a little bit about what it was that motivated you to get this important, purpose-driven message out to the world.
You know, I think that I was always had a bend towards uncertainty, but I didn't really realize, or I didn't frame it, or I really didn't define it until one day I was actually doing a podcast just like this, and somebody asked me about my career, and I thought, oh, I hate this question because my career is so disjointed. I was not that kid who knew where they wanted to go in college. I was just trying to find jobs every single time. So I started out in travel and tourism. I got into the financial services industry and ended up working in healthcare. And it wasn't until that interview that I realized I'd gotten into every single one of those industries when they were going through massive disruption.
Mm.
Travel and tourism after a hurricane, healthcare after managed care, and financial services after heavy regulation. And most people don't like that. I love it. That's where I'm excited. That's where I'm turned on. And that's where first time I realized that I had a gift because I liked what most people did not like.
Mm.
And I could write a methodology and a plan to help people through that, whether it's personally or professionally.
There's so many things I love about that. So, for the person listening that says, I didn't know where I wanted to go either, or I don't know where I want to go now. That leaning into that and sort of figuring out in that moment, what is that superpower around who I am? I talk a lot about that with the people I coach. It's what's that superpower? And your superpower you really found is you have this resilience. You thrive in
Yes.
uncertainty and you can help others sort of navigate their way through it. It's interesting because I feel like there's a lot of uncertainty right now. I feel like
So much.
right, your speaking engagements have to be on fire right now because we're all feeling it. You you think about uncertainty not as a threat but as an advantage, and I'm curious about that. Say more.
Yeah. So, um, it is an advantage because advantage comes when your competitors are not do not see opportunity. I mean, you talk about anybody who's founded a business who's been a successful. I mean, let's even just take Uber for an example. That was about spotting an opportunity,
Right.
right? There was a void in the marketplace. And what I see in the marketplace is you're absolutely right. Uncertainty is everywhere. The pace of change has increased 183% in just 4 years. 4 out of 5 people are completely burned out, overwhelmed, and cannot handle anymore. And guess what? More is coming at you. So if you can be the one, the individual, the leader, the company who says, you know what? We're going to embrace uncertainty. We're going to use it as opportunity. We're going to buy into this idea that disruption leads to opportunity. You're going to have a massive advantage in the marketplace.
And I would think that that applies to you as an individual as well.
Oh,
That linkage as well as how does the individual embrace that uncertainty as their own competitive advantage?
yeah, such a great point. I feel like most people are looking for a leader to show up in an organization to solve their problem. Or we're looking in our personal life. Like I go out, I have a glass of wine with you, and I talk about how unfair all the things are that are happening to me. But there's no rescue coming. I
Right.
mean, your greatest power is to learn to go, "Okay, I'm gonna trust the journey. I'm exactly where I need to be. I'm gonna lean into this." And the irony is when you lean into it, you know this, that's where you'll find the opportunity. The brain is an unbelievable powerful tool, but what you feed it really matters.
Mm. So talk about your Thrive methodology because I feel like that's the tether both specifically for organizations, but also for individuals.
Yeah, absolutely. So when I wrote my first book on it, Thrive, I wanted to write a methodology for how companies could turn uncertainty to competitive advantage. Because I think, Dr. Cynthia, I think the hardest work we do is we can really help people, but it's hard for people to go from understanding to action. And I wanted to
Mm.
break that way down. I wanted to go, there's no question. Like you don't have to think your way through that. Do these steps. And so I researched companies that had thrived in uncertainty, come through the Great Depression, come through, world wars and grown. But when I finished the book and I sent it to the publisher, I was like, the Great Depression didn't end at 5 o'clock. I mean, people were going home and dealing with uncertainty in their personal lives. So I adapted the methodology for your personal life and put it in a second book called Mentally Fit.
It isn't it interesting too when we're writing and we get to the point. I've talked to other authors. You get to a point. I felt this way with my first book where you finish it and you're proud of it and it addressed what you set out to do, but then there's sort of the other side of the story.
Yeah.
There's
There's
more
the
there's more to share. There's more to it. Yeah.
Yeah, and what I realized too was that, if I set out to just help organizations, I was only doing half the work because, look, we've all been doing this long enough. If you have 1 or 2 good leaders in your life, you're a lucky individual. Chances are you'll go through your entire career and never work for an individual who's committed to helping you move forward. So I wanted to give individuals the tools they needed to really springboard or take charge of what they're going through.
Right. Which I love, and I highly recommend both of those books, and we'll make certain that all of your amazing materials are noted in the show notes. When you think about, maybe could you break down Thrive for us? Give us the
Yeah.
essence of what that is.
Yeah, so it really comes down to 3 steps with a few strategies up under them. But step number 1 is really to adapt your perspective, and what that means is that you need to cast a vision. I have been, if I could go back and do my life over, I really wish I'd understood at the age of 5 or 6 how important mindset is and how
Mm,
important focusing on a vision and having a vision and knowing, and really knowing what you want is. But I can't help anybody if they won't work on the mindset. And the mind is designed for negativity because it's designed to protect
yes.
us. So I always say you have to work at it. You've got to work on it on a daily basis. The second piece of that is to throw away competition and focus on collaboration, which is such a gift I think women have. The idea is that we don't have to go this alone. And the idea is when you're faced with a problem, you don't think, what do I need to do? You think, who do I need to be working with?
Right.
And the third piece of that are your values, is that you make every decision according to their values. One of the hardest things you do in uncertainty is to know, like, I have young kids. Should I go back to work? Should I not go back to work? How do you know, right? Well, you know because you make every decision according to your values. The second strategy is to focus on people. I love the fact that we live in this high tech world but the greatest opportunity, the most successful people, the way you navigate uncertainty is to listen to people. If you listen to the market, it'll tell you how to grow. If you build your network, you'll have the resources that you need. If you listen to your team, they'll tell you how they need to be engaged. And the last piece is to commit to process. Is that I always say you've got to condition yourself for change. You need to be thinking about how the marketplace is going to shift. I think about you're so focused on helping women that are trying to navigate this landscape. And I think about, like, you need to be thinking about the fact that what do you want to be doing in 5 years, and what's gonna happen in 5 years? Maybe you have kids going to college, you have parents that are aging. Time is your asset if you think about the shifts coming in the marketplace now, because you have time to do what you need to do to turn that threat into a major opportunity. My husband is retired, and my girlfriends always laugh because we've navigated it so beautifully. But 5 years before he thought about retiring, we sat down and discussed what that was gonna look like and what he was gonna do. And so we joined, like, 3 clubs. He shoots sporting clays, he plays tennis, he plays golf. I say I put him in summer camp. But the idea was, I knew this was coming, so we talked about it. We got
Right.
ahead of it. And that's the power of uncertainty. You cannot stop, but how you think, feel, and act around it, you certainly can shift and control that.
Yeah, I wanna bridge sort of your thought leadership and methodology with mine because I think there's such a beautiful intersection. I talk about start working on your future today.
Yes.
And what we know through research, studying women around the world, is that they're not intentional with their career path. And so what you described with your husband's retirement, right? Thinking ahead of this, what is that going to look like in 5 years? And realizing you can't just fall off the cliff. So let's get the day camp set up, right? So that we have something to do where somebody is looking forward to seeing us, where we have some sort of sense of purpose or plan. And women in particular don't do that. You really emphasize what I love is the connection point. We sort of allude to the fact that because there's volatility, because the future is unknown, all the more reason that you want to plan today, even if you're in the best situation ever.
Oh, absolutely.
Tomorrow isn't promised. So work on your future today. And to your point, that's how you address uncertainty is you use I love this time as your asset. Use the time now to plan for what's to come. And then when those things happen, you have a little more sure footing. Yeah.
Yeah, you're not, we in business, we use a tool called a skeptic. And in business, it's just the word society, competition, economics, politics, technology, industry, customers. And we encourage our clients every quarter to just talk about how the marketplace is shifting because those are things that impact your business. But we adapted the tool for your personal life and just changed a few of the words. And the idea is that, if you and I lived in the same town and we were girlfriends, maybe while our kids are playing soccer or after Pilates, we go out and grab a cup of coffee and we just say, tell me what's going on in your personal life. Like, where do you see your marriage in a few years? What's going on with your parents? Like, where do you want your health to be? Where do you want your finances to be? No pressure, no commitment. We're just talking and engaging. And by talking and engaging, I'm thinking to myself, I don't think anybody, certainly no female, ever looks forwards and goes, I hope in 10 years I'm married to some guy that I don't even recognize or some woman I don't even recognize.
Right.
I hope that my aging parents are struggling and I have to take care of them every day. And I hope I'm in the worst shape of my life. Nobody wants that. But a lot of times, if we're not proactive about it, that's where we wind up.
Yeah. Yeah. And it gets back to that mindset piece, right? It's so fascinating because I've had a number of incredible guests on that bring variations of study around neuroscience or the social psychology or what have you and this idea that we are so programmed for negative thinking
Oh, sure.
instead of positive thinking. So there's 2 variables here. One is that you just don't think about it at all, right? You
Mhm.
just go through the grind, and we know women in particular, it's a lot about put your head down, work hard, and hope for the best because we're trying to juggle all the plates or all the balls. Or the other, which is this doom and gloom
Yeah.
mindset. And so to your point, you gotta start at square one, which is you have to fight that inner critic that is telling you all the reasons it's going to be difficult and it's you don't have time, etcetera.
I think it's so important is that I use 5 buckets, and I tell all my clients to create, just a vision around 5 buckets that's not for anybody else but you, and they're in this order. It is health, um, relationships, uh, finances, career, and spirituality.
Mm,
And the idea is, and if I opened my desk drawer right here, you would see my goals around that. Where do I want to be from a health perspective? Where do I want my finances to be? Where do I want my relationships to be, being marriage, kids, friendships? And I look at that 3 times a day. And the idea of looking at it 3 times a day is to pull my focus back to what matters. And I think we've been sold this bill of goods that I can't have a career and be a good mom, or I can't have a career and be happily married. Or if I'm going to be a really good mom and be happily married, then I cannot be the breadwinner in the family. Or my health needs to suffer because if I'm at the gym working out, then I'm not at the kids' soccer game. And it's just not true. Like
right,
the mind will find what it focuses on. And the reason I do it 3 times a day is because negative things happen to me. I lose a deal, I whatever, and or I get negative,
sure.
right? Like I ate a piece of cake and I feel guilty about it or whatever. So I'm pouring my brain back to the positive all day long. And what I have been amazed at, and again, I don't think I need to tell you, I cannot believe at the end of the year how much of my life comes true.
Yeah. It's interesting. I only in the last uh, probably year now have been really studying around manifestation and some of those things. My kids think it's hysterical because coming
Yeah.
as this corporate, business executive, they're like, Mom's gotten woo woo. It's very
Yeah.
strange. And it's not that, but I am such a student of human behavior.
Yeah.
And the reality is, where we place our energy does come to fruition, right? Our thoughts really do control our behaviors and our actions, and it's in evidence. So
Yes.
this idea, I just want to, for the person listening, I love this notion of these 5 buckets: your health, your relationships, your finance, your career, and your spirituality. And the second thing you said is having the discipline around that to put pen to paper
Mhm.
and to reflect on that, in your case 3 times a day. Have it handy. Keep it close. I have sticky notes on the bottom of my monitor. I just bought
Yeah.
a new, um, sort of a journal where I could start keeping track of those. I love to put pen on paper,
So do
I'm
I.
old
I'm
school.
I'm right with you. I'm with you too.
Yeah, I like to touch it and feel it and the whole thing.
Yeah.
Um, switching to organizations for a bit, because I know that we have, a lot of listeners who lead teams, we have women entrepreneurs, etcetera. You're a sales futurist, which I'm always
Yes.
fascinated by people that are steeped in study and looking at trends and so on. What do you think are some of the assumptions right now, um, that are maybe no longer valid? Or what are the things that people are confused about?
Yeah, I think the number one assumption, that salespeople are making today or organizations are making about salespeople is it's still this belief that you control the buying cycle. And you do not control the buying cycle at all. So we're still using methodology and trainings that were designed in early 2000 or the 1990s, meaning like, I pick my prospect list, I follow up aggressively with people. When I was coming up through the ranks, the skills that were needed in sales were aggression, competition, this relentlessness to get the deal across the finish line. It's not about that anymore. It's about connection, collaboration, and the ability to really connect and engage with people. So the second assumption I would say that I think is dead wrong is that people keep thinking that salespeople are going to be replaced by AI. And I think AI is making salespeople more important and more relevant, but the skills that are needed in today's marketplace are really, soft skills.
Right.
Is that I always say that buying anything today is like shopping for water at a grocery store. We're overwhelmed. We may have everything at our fingertips, but it's too much. So we're looking for somebody who can help us navigate that and really get through those. But again, the biggest mistake I make is salespeople are using out of date strategies and skills.
Yeah. I'm gonna tell on myself because, in your right in your wheelhouse. I should have known you sooner. When I launched my business a couple of years ago, I'd never been in sales in terms of a traditional sales role, and I didn't like it. My perception
Sure,
of sales is something that I wouldn't wanna do. Um, and so that was hard for me when I started my own business because I was really awkward around, well, how do you sell something to somebody,
sure.
right? And it wasn't until I realized that through your point, through connections, through collaboration, through relationships, through solving a real problem that somebody had, where I had the solution to said problem, um, and so it wasn't what I envisioned
Yeah.
sales. It wasn't how I thought about it. But I connect that to, I agree with you. I think so many people are worried that AI is going to disrupt everything and remove all these jobs. If anything, based on my short tenure in somewhat of a sales capacity, is it's all of the human things. It's that
Yes.
which makes us uniquely human that brings those engagements to life.
Absolutely, and, it's kind of like back to where we started with the podcast, is in the sense that why is uncertainty a competitive advantage? It's the same reason as why human connection is, because it's what's void in the marketplace, and if you can close the cap of what's missing in the marketplace, then you have opportunity. I've got a speaking engagement next week, and I was doing interviews this morning with some of the people that'll be in the audience, and I got a young woman who was new in the role, and I said, "Well, what's your edge?" And she said, "Look, I don't know what I'm doing. I just got promoted to this role. I don't have any idea." But she said, "I'm just talking to people and I'm just listening to people." And she's number one in their company. And
Wow.
I think I just thought it was so, like, she didn't have any idea what she's doing. So she's going back to what is basically human. She's not trying any tricks. She's not trying any bells and whistles. She's just going out and doing what she does naturally, which is such a skill that women have, right? Like,
Yes.
I always tell people with sales, most people tell me they hate sales. And I said, if I came to your town and said, what's a good place to go to dinner? You would list places to go to dinner. You'd be so excited. You'd give me all the details and you wouldn't be vested at all of which restaurant I chose. That's all it is with sales, is
Right.
you've got a product or a service that people could benefit from and you can solve their problem that they're worried about. Let go of whether people buy it or not. Just go out there with the heart that you would if I came to your town to eat dinner and you will be fine. And it's exactly how this young woman is doing so well. She's not worried about everything else. She's just like, hey, can I help you? I know I can. If you want to buy, great. If you don't, I'm okay too.
Right. Right.
Mhm.
Yeah, it gets back to your point about listening to people and that being such a core attribute. And I agree with you. And there's never on the show, in my book, etc., a finger wagging at men. Love
Right.
them,
Me
love
too. I
working with
wouldn't be
them.
I wouldn't be where I was without them.
Yeah, same. Um, Having said that, I believe that generally, when we look at it through a generalization, is that women do have many of what have traditionally been called soft skills around compassion, empathy, listening, etc. And I think it's our moment. I think it's our
Oh,
moment
I agree.
because, right? Because technology is going to do a lot of, and not that women aren't smart and have strong cognitive abilities, etc. Right? I pride myself in that space. However, I do feel like as technology takes on more and more of the cognitive load and can spit things out, and really this uniquely human connection, compassion, collaboration, um, generally speaking, I think it's our moment to shine.
I could not agree more. In fact, when you look at the stats, all the stats are really leaning towards female in the sense there's more of us entering college. The women's
Right.
market is a huge market, all those things. But what it comes down to is you're absolutely right. I love men and I learned to be competitive for men. I learned to be aggressive for men. But my husband's natural bend is not to be collaborative. It is to beat, like, he goes out and does something with the guys he's with, all he wants to do is beat them, right? My natural instinct is collaboration. When I watched him go to work, he would never think about the kids ever again. Never. And I would worry all day long, like, what are they doing? And it's just, it isn't a right or wrong, it's a difference. And I
Right.
agree, it is our time. And for companies looking to grow, the research is so impressive with, if women succeed, they take a whole team with them. Men succeed individually. Again, just a different skill set. So I could not agree more. I think it's our time, but I think we need to find our voice. I think we need to cast a vision. I think we need to take what comes naturally to us and lay a few things on top of it.
Mhm. Yeah, we have to really actualize our agency, right?
Yes.
Because that's the other thing is there's a lot of waiting, again, conditioning around put your head down, work hard, good things will happen when it's your turn, and it's our turn. And you have permission and looking up and looking forward. Um, One of the things that's really interesting, I'm more interested in your perspective on this.
Yeah.
So, this throw away the competitiveness that we were just talking about and focus on collaboration. To a large degree, I do believe that women can be more collaborative. At the same time, one of the things I find and shows up in the data as well is that women kind of show up with a scarcity mentality
Mhm.
and can be pretty competitive with other women in particular,
Yes.
right? There's only one spot in my mind, so it's that mindset piece. But how do you think about that differently in getting women to expand that point of view so that they truly can take on step 2, which is to lean into that collaboration?
Yeah, I think that I could not agree more. I mean, fortunately or unfortunately, as I look back over my career, far more men opened doors for me than
Same.
women opened doors for me. And often there was a nice woman there just shutting the door right in my face to make sure that I didn't get through. So I think number one is you've got to do the work around your vision, because I think the reason there's 5 buckets, the reason there's health, finances, spirituality, relationships, is because if all I have is my career, I have a scarcity mindset. If my marriage isn't good, if my relationship with my kids, if I don't have a good set of girlfriends, I've got a scarcity mindset. If I'm having the best career of my life and I'm 30 pounds overweight, my blood pressure's off the chart, I've got a scarcity mindset. I know all this because that was me. The age of 36, I got the promotion I'd always wanted, walked into that office and realized I had nothing else but a career. I had nothing else in my life. And it hit me like a ton of bricks. So the reason I ended up writing that whole piece on the 5 buckets was people asked me why I was so confident. And I thought, I don't have any idea. Like, really had to go back and think, like, because it's not where I started. I was very insecure. I mean, I'd have knocked your legs out from under you too. I wanted to be the only female in the room. And I started to think how I got there. And how I got there was to get myself in shape for me to not be perfect in all of these buckets, to be working on all of these buckets. So I think that we are competitive with one another because we're insecure, and we're insecure because there's a part of our life we've not been honest about. Like, I can help another woman be successful because who's more successful than me, because it's not all I have. Right? Like, I play a lot of tennis, I play a lot of golf, and I watch women on the tennis court be ridiculous about a USTA match when the truth is we're all terrible tennis players. None of us are good, you know? But it's so important to them because
Yeah.
it's all they've got, right? And so what I
Yes.
want people to understand is you 100% control that. I mean, I'm not in the perfect shape. I don't have the best marriage. I don't have the most amazing finances, but I'm working in every single area of that life to get better. So if I can open a door for you and you can be more successful, I'm confident enough in myself to know and understand that not only I want that for you because you'll make the world better for women, but my best chance of being successful is to help you be successful. Because the
Yeah.
more successful I didn't get here by myself. There were women that came before me that weren't allowed to do what I do for a living,
Right. Right.
like did not have that option. So thank God they got out there on the plank and did what they needed to do. But I don't think we can do that, Dr. Cynthia, unless unless we're confident. And I think that competing is about insecurity. If you want
Yeah.
another person to lose, there's an insecurity about you.
Yeah. Gosh. Wow. Meredith, that is so profound. My mind is racing because I'm internalizing some of what you're saying.
Sure.
Um, on a couple of levels. One is I do find listen, healthy competition is a good thing. It's the
It's a
fire
great
in the
thing.
belly, right? It's the fire in the belly. It's the thing that, I want to work with people that want to win, want to do well. So I don't think either of us are suggesting that
Not at all.
being competitive by on its own. But I'm sitting here, just sort of introspectively thinking about the stakes are higher when you are out of balance in those 5 buckets.
Yes.
And so I'm single. Um, don't haven't had a person in my life for a couple going on 3 years. Um, I'm just thinking through how it creates the stakes become higher and how then you pour into whatever bucket is working, going, etcetera, potentially too much, right? I was gonna say to a
Absolutely.
fault. Yeah, I'm sitting here going, "Cynthia, you need to, work on your buckets." By the way, that is not a, request for a dating
Yeah. No, you know what it is that it's like but that is I love what you just said there. Cynthia, I need to work on my buckets because that's
Yeah,
what it is. Like, it's never perfection, but it is about not ignoring a bucket that is important to you. I cannot
right.
like, and you said it so well too, the stakes are higher when I have ignored those other buckets and I lose at work. It's all I've lost bigger than if I'm gonna lose at work and I got 3 great kids that we're going to dinner and celebrating birthdays and, whatever, like, I'm like, I just really don't care, right?
Right.
And so, I just came off as chair of the National Speakers Association, and people are like, "Wow, that's so sorry. Like, you're going to go to NSA next year, and you're not going to be the big cheese." Or I can't wait to not be the big cheese. I can't wait to not have that responsibility.
Yes.
So it's and again, I am not perfect in those buckets, but you said it so beautifully. Is that it's working. And here's the other thing I think is so when insecurity pops, like if I got an opportunity that is not right for me and it's good for you, and I don't share it with you, or you
Mm,
tell me you've got a problem and I know somebody who could help you, and look, sometimes I get insecure about that. But if I hold that back, I got to look at that and go, okay, Meredith, why, what is going on with you that, that, that you couldn't be in that spot? So,
right.
yeah.
Right. Well, and I think too, kinda thinking to the woman listening, it's been my experience, and we sort of alluded to this, that sometimes that's your leader. Sometimes it's
Yes.
the leader that feels threatened
Yes.
by your success, that feels threatened by your side hustle. It gets masked in things like, well, where's your loyalty to the company if you're also doing executive coaching, hypothetically?
Right.
Um, and the reality is it's that feeling threatened by somebody else's success. That's a them problem, not a you problem.
Totally them problem.
That's a them
Mm.
problem, not a you problem.
And
Um,
not anything you can do anything, about.
yes. Right. Right. Other than control what you can control, right? Your behavior, your outcomes, where you remain or don't. Yeah.
Right.
When shifting a little bit, when we think about, so with my new book that's coming out,
Yeah.
or will be out by the time of this broadcast. I talk a lot about future readying your organization. We both live in that space. What do you think that future ready leaders are going to look like, sound like? What are the attributes for the person listening that they need to figure out where they need to double down going forward? And I think we've talked about some of them, but
Yeah. I think one thing we've not talked about that is gonna be the the biggest thing for future ready leaders is they're gonna understand that their number one job is to get their team in shape. In the
mm,
sense that, leaders are too much leading for today, and they need to be leading the team for tomorrow. That's what leaders need. Like, You know, one of the biggest reasons change and uncertainty is so hard is because your team is sitting there waiting for the next change to come rather than you getting them in shape for that kind of change. I use sometimes when I'm on a stage, I'll use this. If you and I decided to run a marathon, I mean, I'm not a runner. So and we wouldn't just go, okay, great. Let's run the Boston Marathon whenever it comes out. What we would do is we'd get a training plan and we would, set up some small races first. We'd be getting ready for the big thing. You have no idea as a leader what the big shift is coming. You don't know what it is, but you need to be getting your team in shape. You need to be getting them to a point where they increase their confidence around agility. They increase their level of feeling that they have some level of control and believe that they're going to be safe in an environment when there's no steady ground under them. So I think that's probably the skill we haven't talked about that I think leaders need to do. I'll add one other that we haven't discussed, and that is that the future leaders will understand the difference between productive and busy, and will have
Mm,
their teams really focus on understanding the difference between. There will be no cookie for busy, and there will be huge attributes. I just got a review yesterday from a CEO who didn't meet the numbers, and I got so much activity that CEO did and I don't care. Like, I don't care, right? Like, my the board of directors wanted to know my advice, and I said, "My advice is your CEO does not understand the difference between busy and productive. You
right.
gave them the goals, they did not hit the goals. I don't ca They gave me 3 pages of everything they did, doesn't matter." And so, I think leaders will really understand the difference between that and get it done.
Yeah, I'm going to link that to one of the things I talk about is volume versus value.
Yes.
And right? And so what women in particular do based on our research is that we sort of raise our hand for everything.
Yeah.
And, put me in coach, put me in coach, whether it's the pizza party or the whatever. And
Right.
we're like, yeah, we'll do it. I mean, how many men do you see around the table? Again, bless their hearts, but, going, yeah, can I please plan the,
I
the
know. The
employee
Christmas
luncheon?
party, I'll do it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. It doesn't happen. And so nobody does. And so, the nurturers and us, well, somebody has to do it. And we take on a lot of volume rather than value. And I think so I love tethering together both as a leader and as an
Mhm.
individual. So the individual, we say, really be decisive and thoughtful and discerning about what you're taking on and where is it adding actual value versus, to your point, busy work. And to leaders, how are you discerning and evaluating what you're asking people to do, what you're taking on. Are we ticking just a lot of boxes? And then to harken back to a recent interview I had with Lauren Capel, she was talking about let AI, let technology do the busy part of the work so that you can focus on the value work.
Yeah, I agree. I also think, especially as women, we don't do our schedules right. And again, I'm a victim of this, but it is like we allow the schedule to happen to us. Just like I said, I'll plan the Christmas party, I'll do this and that. If we go back to those 5 buckets have to hit the schedule first. Like, I don't care what's on my schedule. You'll
Mhm.
find me working out every day. Every day. You'll find me taking time where I don't care if I am in town, I am stopping and having dinner with my husband, and there will be no phone, there will be no anything at the table. And I schedule something, we've kids all over the place, but I scheduled that first. Like at some point during the week, we don't have any in the home anymore. There's gonna be some level of interaction. It may sound silly to schedule that, but my week happens to me if that doesn't happen. And if you asked me what's important to me, I would tell you what's important to me. And if my schedule does not reflect that, I'm out of alignment with my values.
Yeah. Yeah, it really does get back to doing that. Michelle Johnston, her new book on seismic shift in you, and she talks
Yes.
about doing a calendar audit. And when you sit and you do a calendar audit, and how do you have alignment with where you're actually spending your time and energy, and that which you say you value, and getting back to your 5 buckets you're putting those in priority and putting those on a calendar. I coach women all the time and men too and say, you have to put the time that you're
Yes.
going to pour into your own cup. Because if you're just not doing that intuitively, naturally, etc. I talked to a woman last week and I said, for 1 week, Monday through Friday, I want you to put 30 minutes. I don't care when it falls, but 30 minutes every day, Monday through Friday. And you choose what you do at that time, but it is self-serving. It serves no one else. It is
Yes.
100% for you. And I'm gonna check in with you. I'm texting you to find out how was your 30 minutes today.
Yeah.
Um, because, our otherwise, to your point, our schedules do the controlling. They
They
take
they
over.
completely do the controlling. I also think I don't know if you ever found this work, but I found it probably 6 or 7 years ago, and the reason I schedule that way is, it's managing your energy versus your time. I came across that
Mm,
article in Harvard Business Review called "The Corporate Athlete," and I love that article because it talks about the fact that, elite athletes take time to renew and take care of themselves. I mean, the reason they get off and do an ice bath, the reason they get a massage, the reason they train hard for 2 days and take a day off is because they cannot be at peak performance. So, again, it was this idea that you may be an elite CEO, but if you're overweight, you have a bad marriage, you're not as successful as you could be. And it was this idea that staying and burning the midnight oil was not the goal, that you actually get energy from watching your kids play soccer
yeah,
and get energy from going to get a facial that
right.
gives you capacity to excel better in your role. And I really believe that.
Yeah, that is super profound, and it keeps taking me back to the mic drop moment for me. And hopefully, one of you listening is this: the stakes get so much higher when you
Yes,
aren't balanced in all 5 buckets. So for the person that is working crazy hours, burning the midnight oil, etcetera, and has, the relationship challenge or other things, then when stuff goes bad at work, it's your world falls apart because
exactly.
right? Because that's where all your priority and interest is. Oh my goodness, Meredith, I could literally spend all day talking to you. We have a shared thoughts and philosophies. I want to just say back for the person listening, and then I ask every one of our guests to wrap with one thing advice that you would have for the woman listening, something to start doing, stop doing, and continue doing. So start, stop, continue doing.
Yeah, the very first thing that I would do, the one thing that I would start doing is I would write my vision down, and I wouldn't have it for anybody else, but I would just write down, where do you see yourself in a year, and think about those 5 buckets. The thing I would stop, doing is I would stop doing when the things that when my gut says, "I don't want to do this." Like, if you don't wanna go to lunch with somebody, if you don't want to, have people over to dinner, if you don't want to be in that dinner club, if, get don't do it. Just pick one thing to say, "That does not serve me, I hate it." Um and then the last thing and one thing that you need to, continue doing is you need to continue to listen to Dr. Cynthia and get the tips
Oh,
that you need. You do. I
yeah.
mean, this is I mean, it's a collective, a really collective community, and I think you've got great tips and great ideas for people. It's this idea that incremental change is just fine. Like, we're not
Absolutely.
gonna shift overnight. We're not gonna go from 0 to 60, but if you improve 1% every day, you're gonna be 365% better in a year, right? 50 even a week. So
Right.
don't try to do that. So, yeah, that's what I would say.
Thank you so much. Meredith has dropped you have dropped so many incredible just insights, wisdom, ideas, and it's because of people like you with your thought leadership and how much you give back and the movement that you're on to change lives and help better organizations that this show is successful and that people do tune in. A couple of things as we wrap up, guys, is the 5 buckets: health, relationships, finance, career, spirituality. Meredith has a number of books out. Where's the best place? We'll have all your things in the show notes, but where's the best place for folks to get a hold of you?
Yeah, so I tend to live on LinkedIn as far as social media, and then you can always find me at my website, valuespeaker.com, just the words valuespeaker.com. I'm a big believer, build your network, it will change your life. So reach out to me and I'll reach out to you.
Yes, absolutely. And I can say I am evidence of that because I reached out cold to Meredith because I've been following her and I love her work. And she was incredibly gracious to respond and be willing to be a guest on the show today. That concludes today's episode of Climbing the Corporate Ladder Without Breaking a Heel. Until next time, you've got this. Congratulations on choosing to invest in yourself. I know your time is precious. Thank you for spending it here with me. I believe in helping you look up, step forward, and fully realizing your potential. If today's conversation resonated, I'd be so grateful if you'd rate and comment on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you listen. And if you know someone who would benefit, please share this episode with them. Let's stay connected. Visit me at dr-cynthia.com, and you can find me on all the socials at Dr. Cynthia Bentzen-Mercer. Until next time, remember, boldly start working on your future today.